So your background in ministry actually includes music ministry at a church that was much more attractional than what we would recommend for guys. But there's been a journey even in your own ministry for maybe more of a commitment to style in the past and now much more commitment to substance. Maybe talk about that journey for you and what it's been like.
Yeah, so I spent the first 8.5 years at primarily large, pragmatic churches that, in fact, that the music ministry drove the church. The preaching of the word did not. So that was my background, and God used that to help me see what that does to a church and what it does to the spiritual health of a church. And so, interesting, it was a path I wouldn't have chosen for myself and even questioned for years. But when I finally gained the convictions of what I think actually builds a church, what I think brings life into a dying church, certainly was what I walked into. I learned that in these places where you can have the illusion of life through depending on the style of music and the production of it and all those kinds of things. And I've got some crazy stories, but I'll just say, like, I know how to use a fog machine, and I was the one that helped make sure the 40-foot American flag rose behind the choir at just the right time. So, like, I have all kinds of crazy stories. I say those because people who know me have no idea that that's in my background at all.
It's very surprising to hear.
But the reality is, music in the church is important. Being creative is in the church is important. Using instrumentation well, having people who play and sing, that they're gifted in those ways. It's distracting if they're not. But I have found that style divides so much more than unifies. And that's what I think I really want pastors to grasp when they think about how to do the music side of their service, what they're trying to accomplish with it. Because so often when you take a style and cater to a group, you end up alienating everybody else. That's what I experienced at this church. They were trying to draw in a certain crowd. And whether they accomplish it or not, they would actually miss the alienation of others.
Yeah, it doesn't miss the point of gathering, which is to draw attention to God's glory and then to build up the church, as opposed to drawing attention to the people and trying to cater to their needs. It really misses the whole point. But there's so many who are swept up into that idea of what the church is, why she would gather. We don't gather for the people, we gather for Him. And then the result obviously benefits the people who gather with the right heart.
Yeah, and the content is what unites people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important thing when you think about congregational singing. We're doing two things. We're singing to God, but we're also singing to each other.
That's right.
So when we sing, the things we sing is so important because the truth we sing, we're agreeing on. It's like testifying to somebody when you sing a hymn together and you're singing the same things and the same melody and all those things. I mean, there's so much symbolism in that that's really special and powerful that, quite frankly, doesn't get focused on if style of all things, ironically, becomes the main focus. In fact, when style becomes the focus, or a certain music style, that other stuff actually gets purposely put in the background. So how you approach the worship service, the public gathering in your church, makes a huge statement of what you understand you're even doing.
Sure. Now, there are those who would agree with us on this and would push back against style to the point that they would eliminate, and you touched on this a moment ago, eliminate creativity altogether, as if the service, the worship time, has to follow one specific pattern always and almost is devoid of life and energy. But we would want to push back against that idea, wouldn't we?
Yeah, so the key with this is to make sure you don't overreact to an extreme. You can go one way or another, and we know churches that do that. And there are churches that purposely almost seem like they're making the public gathering unpleasant
right,
to avoid being entertainment driven, right? Which is really unhelpful.
That's
so
right.
I think that, and we're talking about this conversation, though, it affects the whole public gathering, everything that happens.
That's right.
We focus on music a lot because that's what drives so much of what we're doing. So that's why I quickly threw that in there, right?
Sure.
Being creative is a good thing.
Yeah.
Using instrumentation is a good thing, and having capable, competent people to do it. All that just enhances. Again, it's about Why are you worship? What are you doing when you gather publicly?
Yeah.
If it's to if it's to worship God and encourage and agree with each other
Yeah.
on these truths that we're hearing and singing and listening to, then that you want the public gathering to reflect that that's actually what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times pastors just don't think about what they're doing with it, what they're saying with what they're doing.
Yeah, it's very important though. I mean, that's the primary moment you'll spend with your church family every week. And so getting that right is very important.
It's the front door of the church. It's what everybody sees first. It's really important.